Now, trade barriers can slow the world's energy transition, but at the same time, commerce also needs to be fair. That, of course, is according to International Energy Agency Chief Fatih Birol. Clean energy, of course, is amongst the hot topics this week at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, with China denouncing barriers to green trade. Meanwhile, the European Union voiced its concerns about trade imbalances. China leads the world in the deployment of solar and wind energy and is also the biggest producer of electric cars. Now, fears of a trade war emerged after the EU launched a probe into Beijing's subsidies for its electric car industry, which of course could lead to punitive tariffs. But EU nations are also worried about losing business to huge energy transition subsidies in the United States, which include tax breaks for US-made electric vehicles.
What we have is an existential climate crisis. We cannot think of eradicating poverty without caring about climate. We cannot think about eradicating poverty without caring about healthcare. We cannot think about eradicating poverty without caring about food insecurity and fragility. These are, if you don't like it, tough luck. This is the reality, that we have a set of intertwined crises.
What I commit is that the IMF will be systematically engaged with private sector, with other organizations, with governments, because today we are systemically significant institution in the fight against climate change. And we will continue that fight. Thank you.
Now, of course, lots of discussions taking place in Davos this week. Let's get the latest from the ground from Evangelo Sipsis. He joins us now in Davos. Evangelo, great to have you with us on the show. Now, of course, today we saw Israel's President Isaac Herzog and also Iraqi's Prime Minister speaking on the day. How did they address those rising tensions in the Middle East? What was their focus?
Yeah, were there talks on the sidelines, actually, of their both had panels earlier, but they had a nice meeting, and pretty much, if we had to sum it down, it would be something positive because they both agree that peace needs to be brought again into the region. They both said that in order to normalize the tension that is happening in the region, that Israel needs to normalize first its ties with Saudi Arabia, and that's exactly what the Iraqi Prime Minister Soudani mentioned. He also said, though, that a U.S.-led coalition needs to support that, needs also, though, to support a mission that would end the international mission that is taking place in Iraq at the moment. Now, the discussions between the two president and the prime minister were taking place here on Thursday in Davos amid the rising tension that is happening in the war in Gaza, but also in the West Bank, and it's what's happening between Pakistan and Iran. They both mentioned that this tension, they're trying to keep it as much as they can contained because they don't want it to spill over through its borders. Now, we have to mention here that also Iran, in the beginning of the week, targeted areas in Iraq, claiming that it was killing not civilians but terrorists that belong to Israeli interests.
Now, Evangelo, artificial intelligence, that's sort of been the darling theme at this year's Davos. But as we're just discussing, how much are we seeing other topics such as the global fallout from the Israel-Gaza war and, of course, its impact on trade coming to the fore in this year's discussions?
Well, today was supposed to be focused specifically on that, on artificial intelligence. Though there were panels discussing about artificial intelligence, what actually was on the spotlight was the overnight missile strikes from Pakistan to Iran, as they say, retaliation of what Iran did a few days ago on Pakistani soil. Now, the war in Gaza has caused a lot of tension to the delegates that are here, but also to those chief economists that are here who are warning that this will have an outlook of 2024 that doesn't look as promising. And then the rising tensions in the Red Sea. The rising tensions in the Red Sea, that what they're saying right now is that because of what's going on and the U.S. bombardment on Houthi rebels, but also the Houthi rebels that are in hijacking different ships, the ships have to divert, and those supply chains are being disrupted. Those supply chains are going to take longer to be able to provide the goods that are being traveling, meaning that more time is more money. And that's what they have been saying here. So they need to find a way to tackle that, to tackle what is going on in the Red Sea, to be able to bring those ships back into the Red Sea up to the Suez Canal. Now, the U.S. yesterday, Anthony Blinken from the United States mentioned that they're willing to be here on the ground and to, let's say, flex their muscles in order to keep everything in order.
Quite interesting. Now, a lot happening this year. We also saw China returning to Davos in full force with a pretty large delegation and also a lot of plans in place for talks with top business leaders. Give us an update on some of the discussions and outcomes that we've seen so far.
Well, it is the highest profile of Chinese delegation since 2017. It is a large amount of people that came here to discuss, to show and talk what they have to say, with Li Chang, the chairman of China, the Chinese premier, being here discussing a number of topics from artificial intelligence, which he clearly mentioned that we all need to work together, that the whole world needs to work on this to govern it properly, so lower income economies actually can benefit from it, so it can boost its productivity. He also mentioned, though, that we need to have red lines so we do not cross it. Now, they also mentioned that China is open for business. A number of countries are welcome to come to China to do their business, to invest, as there are taking away some of those restrictions for foreign companies and foreign investments to come in. That was the big announcement. But also the big announcement here from the Chinese side was that the Chinese economy grew. It grew more than expected in 2023. 5% was a target. The Chinese economy grew up to 5.3%. And he also mentioned that in the year to come, they are going to see a steady growth of that happening. Now, on the other side, of course, the European Union welcomed with Ursula von der Leyen, welcomed that announcement, but said that we need to be cautious because it seems that the Europeans and the European Union is becoming more dependent rather than what we are dependent on our own products. But of course, the response from the Chinese side said that we all are in here together and that the technologies that we have to offer and what we have to offer by opening our doors even wider to the world for business is a bridge to bring the world together and to normalize the growth of 2024.
Well, Evangelo, thank you so much for that update on the WEF in Davos. That, of course, is Evangelo Sipsis joining us there in Davos.